Bismillah walhamdulillah wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah wa ala alihi wa ashabihi ajma'in amma ba'd. So the next masail we're going to take are those things that are prohibited in ihram. We mentioned ihram, and now what are the things prohibited for ihram? We said ihram is though ihram comes from the words we mentioned that has ha, ra and mim, which indicates something becomes haram. So which are those things that become haram? Here we're going to mention it now. So the scholars mention there's around 9 things that are haram when a person goes into the state of ihram. So when a person goes into the state of ihram, then basically what happens is, we said you're wearing these 2 cloths. So these 2 cloths have some wisdom in wearing just 2 cloths. Number 1, they say it reminds one of humility, that you just dressed in the most humble manner. Because this whole trip of Hajj and Umrah, it's not about luxury. So therefore you're going to see that you dress simply. You don't beautify yourself. You don't use perfume and nothing. Everyone is dressed simple. Another thing that these 2 cloths do is that it reminds you of your death. Of your death. Because you will be just clouded in 3 cloths and done. 3 simple white cloths and it's done. Another thing is that it reminds you that you are in the state of ihram, so that when you remember not to do these things, because you know you're in ihram. If you are in normal clothes, you won't realize. They mention a few others, but we'll suffice with that. Okay, so now what becomes haram? So these things become haram because many times it will be that it's some form of beautification or luxury that goes against the point of ihram. So that's why these things are there. So when you do these things, many times if you do it by mistake, then it's overlooked. If you do it ignorantly, it's overlooked. But if you do it intentionally, then there's the penalty to pay that we're going to mention here. So the first thing is that a person cannot remove hair on his body. Male or female, they cannot remove hair on his body, including nose hairs. The nose hair is on the inside, but it's deemed outside of the body. The nose is deemed outside of the body. We mentioned it. That's why in fasting, you can put water in your nose. It's not inside your body, it's outside. Okay, so therefore you cannot remove hair on your body. If hair, let's say you have an hair that falls into your eye, for example, and then you remove it, or your eyelashes, your eyelashes in your eye, and then you remove it, then that's okay. That's okay. Or your nail has broken, so then you cut it off because it's breaking, then that's fine. But otherwise, can you just clip your nails? No. That's why we say it's sunnah to do it beforehand in case you need to. Okay, and same with your hair, you can't. The only time you can remove your hair in ihram is when you are going out of ihram. That's the last thing you do in Umrah, we'll come to that just now. And then, so removing hair and nails, you cannot do that. So once you remove 3 hairs plus, or 3 nails plus, then here you have to pay a penalty. What is this penalty? This penalty is called fidyatul adha. Fidya is that you're going to pay a penalty, and adha is basically for harm, because Allah uses the word in the Quran of harm. And also the main evidence for this is a hadith of Ka'b bin Ujrah radiyallahu anhu. When he was in ihram, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam noticed he was suffering from, I think it was lice. So Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam told him that you can cut your hair, shave your hair, but then you have to pay a fidya. You have to pay this penalty. And this penalty is either to fast 3 days, or feed 6 poor people, we'll come to the details just now, or to slaughter an animal, a sheep. So you have one of those 3. So if you have a valid reason to do one of these things, a need to do one of these things, then you pay a penalty, but there's no sin. There's no sin. And if you have no need to do it, then you get a sin and you have to pay the penalty. So Ka'b radiyallahu anhu, he had a valid reason. So there's no sin, but he still had to pay the fidya. That's where we get the rule that somebody that has a reason to do these things, then he still has to pay a fidya, but he can do it because of this hadith, and there's no sin on him. So for 3 nails plus and 3 hairs plus, then he has to pay the penalty. And what would be if he feeds? He has to feed 3. He has to feed. We said 3 poor people. Then he has to pay. We said 3 days fasting and 6 poor people. Correct? Yeah. 6 poor people, he has to feed each one of them 1.5 kg of those things you give for zakatul fitr. We remember that? Those things you give for zakatul fitr, the dates and those things, you pay 1.5 kg. That's what you give each poor person that amount. You have to give 6 and each one that amount. Or if you're giving from burr, which is wheat, you can give half of that. So 750 grams. You have to give each person. Or you're going to slaughter a sheep. You can slaughter a sheep or a camel or a cow. That's better, but you need minimum is to sheep or goat, and you slaughter it in Mecca and you give it to the poor who are in Mecca at that time. They must take the meat. However amount of people come and take, however amount they take, it's fine. It's fine. Or you fast 3 days anywhere in the world. Even in your hometown, you can fast anywhere. Less than that, if you've removed one hair or one nail or 2 hairs or 2 nails or half a hair or 1.5, let's say it's half, 1 or less, you have to feed 1 per person. 2, more than 1, but not more than 2, you have to feed 2. You have to feed 2. There's no option of fasting. You have to feed here. Okay. Then the other thing, and we're going to come to it just now exactly. Yes. So that's what with regards to removing hair and nails. Then the other thing you cannot do in ihram is wearing normal clothing. So normal clothing, the scholars call it makhit. Makhit from the Arabic word khayt. There's like sewing happening on your clothing. You can't wear clothing that is sewn. But it doesn't literally mean if there's any stitching going on, it's haram. No. It means those clothing that are sewn on a manner that is on a specific body part. It's sewn in that manner. So you can't wear gloves. That's for the hands. You can't wear socks. It's for the hands. You can't wear trousers because it's for the legs exactly. So whether it's already sewn like that or you make it like that, you can't. You make it like that how? You put a pin on something. So now it's stuck to your body. So then you can't do it. You can cover, let's say you put a blanket on your arm, no problem. But now if you tie the blanket, now it's on your body part. Now you cannot do it. Okay, so that's what it means with regards to that. The only thing you can tie is your lower garment. So you're going to wrap the cloth on top and a cloth at the bottom, the white one. You can see pictures of those in ihram, or some of the brothers sometimes they wear it almost like a skirt. So then the bottom one, then you can tie that one there. You can tie it. You can wear a belt if you need to. You can put a pin if you need to. You can put or maybe a Velcro if you need to keep it up if you need to. Then that's all permissible. More than that you cannot do. Therefore sometimes a person suffers from incontinence, let's say constant urine for example. Now they're going to do Hajj or Umrah. Then here they have a couple of options. One option is that incontinence of, we're not speaking of the wudu, we're speaking of, because we mentioned it before in the dars of hayd. We mentioned it there, somebody with incontinence. But then what does he do? Then sometimes they wear like a diaper. This diaper will be on the body part, it will be shaped on the body. So in theory it's not permissible, but because this man has a need, it becomes permissible. And therefore he pays the fidya, if he wears that. The other option, some of the scholars say, where he can do it and not pay a fidya, let's use urine specifically for example, is that you put like a tissue on your private part. And then if you tape it or you put an elastic band, then in that case, many of the scholars say there won't be fidya and you can do that. People who suffer with urine drops that come out constantly, they can do that. Or if they need to wear like a diaper, something like that, then that's fine and you give the fidya. Okay, the next thing, so that's with regards to that. Then here they mention the type of shoes that a person can wear. Type of shoes. Any shoes that are sandals you can wear. No problem. Okay, so therefore, if it has a strap at the back, not a problem. If it has a strap at the top, not a problem. The problem comes when it is a shoe almost like a tacky or loafer. The whole foot is covered. You cannot wear because it's falling into this. It's covering your whole body part. Yeah. So this covering your whole body part, if it's your entire body part or portion of it, it falls into this thing of makhit. So sandals, if you wear shoes, for example, shoes that sometimes almost like slippers, it's closed from the front. You can't wear that because it covers the front. Or it's covered from the back only, you cannot also. But otherwise, if it's open in most of the places, it's fine. So therefore, sometimes you have the sandals that have straps at the top and at the back. That's fine as well. So the main thing is that it's not fully closed at the top, in the front of the toes, and not fully at the back. And also to a large extent at the top, it mustn't be almost like a slipper, on how slippers look on top. But any type of sandal with the strap in the middle, that's all fine. Okay. And then this is for males. A lady, she has to cover. The next thing is also only for males, and that is to cover your head. So if you cover your head in ihram, then you have to pay a penalty. Even Uncle Ashraf has to pay a penalty. Even he'd have to stay bareheaded. Okay, so they say your head you cannot cover while you're in ihram. So you can't. You can carry something on your head. Like for example, you put your sunglasses on your head, or you put your hand on your head. That's not a problem. But you cannot cover it. You cannot wear a hat. for example. Sometimes people, let's say they're in the car and they're in the bus, for example, going to Mecca, and they want to sleep. Then they take the ihram and they cover it on the head like that. You just cover it like that. That's not permissible. That's covering the head. So you can't do it like that. Okay. So, but otherwise, so keeping the head open is a must in ihram for males and for females. Sheikh is awake. Okay, not females. It's haram. They have to cover. Okay, Sheikh, I was checking that one day. Okay, the next one that's not permissible is tib. Tib is perfume. So you cannot apply perfume to your clothes or to your body once you go into ihram. You cannot apply that. Therefore, and also you cannot eat things that have remnants of perfume. Like what? Like saffron. Like saffron. You know the coffee the guys bring that has saffron inside. If you can taste it or smell it, then you cannot have that. If you can see the color is still in the food or in the rice, some rice dishes they put saffron, for example, or here. Then if the taste is there or the smell is there, then you can't have that while you are in ihram. If the color is there but the taste is cooked out, for example, or the smell is cooked out, then that's not a problem. So therefore, if you're using soaps or shampoos and things like that, let's say soaps, then if it is scented, perfumed, then it's not permissible. If it is just flavored, it's permissible. So I stopped. I said soap rather because shampoo means you're going to put your hands in your head, for example, then you make your hair fall out. If your hair comes out, then you have to pay the penalty. Yeah. Okay, so that's why soaps are. You can comb your hair or scratch your head, but they say do it softly, lightly, so that nothing comes out. So especially with the inside of your finger. Some of the scholars say you do it on the inside so that your hair doesn't come out. Your hair doesn't fall out. Okay, so those soaps and things like that. So therefore, you cannot use bakhur. Those are all perfume. The other thing is, the next thing you cannot do is, you cannot get married while you are in ihram. So you can propose, it will be makruh, but you cannot do the contract right there. Whether you are the husband only in ihram, or the wife only in ihram, or the wali only in ihram, all of it won't be valid. There's no penalty, but it won't be valid. You have to redo it after your ihram. Then the next thing that's not permissible while you are in ihram is intercourse. Intercourse meaning to penetrate that amount that ghusl would be obligatory. That would be haram. So that intercourse, if you do it in Hajj. So in Hajj you have two types of, in Hajj, once you get into ihram, then all of these things we mentioned, they become haram. Then after you do a few sets of Hajj, we'll take that in the dars next week inshallah. When you do a few things, then you go 75% out of ihram. Okay? You'll do a few things. Then there's one thing left or two things left. Once you do those things, then you'll be 100% out of it. So to come out, they call it tahallul. If you can hear from halal, tahallul. So they call it the first tahallul and the second tahallul. The first tahallul is when you're 75% out. And the second tahallul is when you're completely out. So if you have intercourse with your wife, it's double haram if it's not with your wife. But let's say your wife, okay? If you have intercourse before the first tahallul, then your hajj becomes invalid. Your whole hajj or your whole hajj becomes invalid. Okay? But hajj, you have to complete it. So it's invalid, but you have to stay and complete the hajj. You have to complete the hajj. And then you have to do qadha the next year. Okay? So therefore, and also you have to pay the penalty of a camel. You have to slaughter a camel or a cow. And if you cannot afford, then you have to fast 10 days. You have to fast 10 days as a penalty if you had intercourse. This is if you had intercourse before the first tahallul. Okay? And then in the qadha next year, you have to separate between these people who had these spouses who had intercourse. Okay, they had intercourse, whichever place they had intercourse, you have to separate them from that point onwards until they finish the hajj. So that will be before the first tahallul. If it's after the first tahallul, they had intercourse, then the hajj will be valid. The hajj will be valid, but what will happen is they have to pay this penalty of either slaughtering the animal or feeding 6 people or fasting 3 days. That's after the first tahallul. So after the first tahallul, you're 75% out. So then the penalty is much less. And your hajj is valid. No qadha needed to be done. But you have to go out of the haram area to the hill, to the halal side. We mentioned the hill yesterday, to renew your ihram if you have to do the tawaf of hajj. Okay, that's with regards to that. Then The last thing, so for a female, if she was forced, if the intercourse happened, her hajj will break as well, if it was done before the first tahallul. But if she was forced to have intercourse, the husband forced her, then next year when she does the qadha, who has to pay for her hajj? It's on the husband. If she voluntarily did it, then she has to pay for her own hajj. She has to pay for her own hajj, but her hajj will break. And if it was after the first tahallul and he forced her, then there's nothing on her, no penalty on her, no penalty on her. The last thing that's haram for a person in ihram is to have skin on skin in a sexual manner. Skin on skin in a sexual manner. So that includes touching in a sexual manner or kissing in a sexual manner or even looking more than one time, and it causes you to release sperm. So not the pre-seminal, the sperm. So if you did those things before the first tahallul, this is in hajj we say, then you have to sacrifice a camel as well, or a cow, just like what we mentioned the fasting 10 days, if it's before the first tahallul. If it's after the first tahallul, then you slaughter then you have those three options. If it's after the first tahallul, this is in hajj. So therefore, if a person released sperm for those things, then he has to slaughter this animal, if it's before or after, as we explained. If he didn't release sperm, whichever point he did this, before or after the first tahallul in hajj, then he didn't release sperm. Either he released nothing, or even he masturbated for himself and he released many, he released sperm, he has to pay that penalty that we mentioned. And if he didn't release many, either he released nothing or pre-seminal fluid, then he has to pay those three options that we mentioned. He has those three options. And for a female, if she did these things and released with sexual desire, then the same rules apply to her. If she didn't have sexual desire with that, that's how the Fuqaha phrased it, they phrase it like that, then there's nothing on her. Then the last thing with this is for Umrah. For Umrah. The Umrah is very quick and very simple. You have to do tawaf, and then you have to do sa'i, Safa and Marwa, and then you have to cut your hair. You have to cut your hair, then you are done. So if you had the intercourse before the sa'i is completed, then your umrah becomes invalid. Your umrah becomes invalid, you have to do qadha as soon as possible. And then the same applies the lady who funds the umrah, etc. that we just mentioned. For hajj, exactly everything applies. The same for umrah. And if you did it after the sa'i, then your umrah does not become invalid. In both cases, before or after the sa'i, in umrah, the penalty to pay are those three options. He or her, they have the three options. She, if she was forced, nothing on her. If she was not forced, then she has to pay the penalty as well. And for touching each other in umrah with sexual thing, as we mentioned, then there's the penalty of those three options. Those three options doesn't get invalidated. So sometimes newly married people, they make their honeymoon hajj and umrah, Sheikh.
Yes,
Not a good idea. Not a good idea. Okay. So now you learn the rules, Sheikh. So you tell them not a good idea. Okay. Then the last few things with this, we already mentioned it, but just to go into a bit more of this, is that the Sheikh is going to mention the chapter of how the penalty is paid. So he says the penalty, there's two types. The first option is that you have the choice. The first one is you have the choice. Which is the choice? Those that we mentioned, that you have one of those three things we mentioned. Either you feed 6 people, what we mentioned, or you fast 3 days anywhere in the world, or you're going to slaughter the sheep, or the sheep. Then in this case, you have the choice to do any one of them. You can do whichever one you want, and that's for those things that we mentioned. If you wear clothing that is on the body part, or you use perfume, or you cut your hair or your nails 3 or more, or those situations of intercourse and skin on skin that we mentioned that you're going to do it, then it will come out to 10 or 11 situations where you have the option. Then there's the other one where you do not have the option. It must be by category. If you must start with this one. If you are not able, then you go to the next one, and that is the slaughtering of the camel or the cow. If you cannot do that, then you have to fast 10 days. The 10 days, so what will happen there is that's for the intercourse that we mentioned before the first tahallul. It will apply that, or to, what's the other one? Skin on skin before the first tahallul in hajj. Then you have to slaughter this cow or this camel. You can do either of them. Then what happens here? You cannot afford them. Then you have to fast 10 days. The fasting of this 10 days will be 3 days. You have to do it while you are at hajj. Before that 13th day ends, you have to have fasted the 3. If you haven't fasted, then you have to sacrifice a sheep for delaying. And then the 7 days, once you are done with everything of hajj, then you fast the 7 days. Whether you're still in Mecca or you've come to your home place or anywhere, whether you fast the 3 together or separately, and the 7 together or separately, all is fine, all is fine. Then the last thing with this, or the second last thing, this is a good mas'ala that we're going to mention, but the last thing with this is this mas'ala of slaughtering the animal and then fasting those 10 days. If you remember, we mentioned yesterday, did I mention it in this dars? Maybe not. No, I haven't. Okay, we'll mention it just now in the last part. So then the last thing is if a person repeatedly does these things, he repeatedly put perfume or smelled the perfume. Sometimes the person keeps smelling the perfume, or he goes to the Kaaba is perfumed. While he's in ihram, he touches the Kaaba. The Kaaba has got perfume on it, so he can't touch it. Or the Hajar Aswad, if he gets a chance to touch, it's perfumed. All of this he can't do. Many people don't realize. They touch while they are in ihram, so they're touching perfume. So you cannot do that. So sometimes a person will remove, he doesn't realize and he's biting his nails, for example. Then what's the rule here? Or he realizes he's biting his nails, but he's so used to biting his nails, he just carries on. Why do I say it like that? Because there's a difference between forgetfulness. Okay. So therefore, if a person does these things that we mentioned, these things that are haram, forgetfully, then it's overlooked. It's overlooked. Any of the things. He does it forgetfully, it's overlooked. And if he does it intentionally, then obviously it's not overlooked. So the point is, forgetfully, it's overlooked. And if he repeats the thing, then if he hasn't paid the penalty yet, then he only has to pay one penalty, if it's from the same thing. So he cut all of his hair, for example. He's not supposed to cut. So now he cut, let's say, 100 strands of hair. He doesn't have to feed 3 people times 100. He doesn't need to do that, for example. Each hair he doesn't have to pay, or each 3 hairs, 4 hairs, he doesn't have to. You just pay one. Or you put perfume, and then you put perfume again, then you smell perfume, and then you put the whole perfume. So you did it 5 times, but you didn't pay any penalty yet. You pay one. If you pay the penalty and then you did it something again, then you have to pay another one. But if you haven't paid, then if it's from the same type, you just pay one penalty. But if it's from a different type, you removed your hair, and then you smelled perfume, then you touched the Kaaba. In this case, how many penalties you have to pay? Removed his nail, put perfume, touched the Kaaba. How many? 3. Not 3, Sheikh. Remove the nail. Yes, then he put perfume. Then he touched the Kaaba.
3.
No. 2 things. The last 2 are both perfume. Yeah. Okay, so that's how it will work. In that case, that's how it will work. Okay, that's with regards to that. So the last thing, and that is, I forgot to mention it earlier, and that is for the female. Okay, for females, the ihram of the females is different to the ladies. Most of the things we mention for the males, that is haram, for the females it's not. The females, their ihram is mainly that they don't cover their face. They don't cover their face. The face needs to stay open in ihram. Okay, and they don't wear gloves. They don't wear gloves. Gloves are like the makhit, it's on your hand, like we mentioned. Perfume, we touched on it for them, and then intercourse and those things, it applies to them as well. But basically for the clothing, they wear normal clothing. They wear normal clothing that they wear every day, they just keep their face open. Then the scholars say that the ladies, those that cover their face when males go by, when they are in the presence of non-mahram males, then in ihram as well they can cover their face. But how? Not with the niqab. Not permissible. The hadith says clearly that they don't wear the niqab. And for ihram, so the scholars say that they have a cloth. This cloth, they put it on top of the head. So they put it from up to down. Here it's from up to down. So then they keep it up. It's like your niqab almost, that you keep it up. And then when males are passing by, then you lower the cloth. And when they are gone by, then you can raise it up. You raise it up. So that's how the ladies' ihram will work. The ladies' ihram will work. So therefore what happens here is the lady, she can have a cloth, not a niqab, cloth or whatever kind of a thing on top of her head. And then when she's in the presence of non-mahram males, then she lowers it. And then when they go away, then she lifts it up again. So for example, she's in the bus and there's all men all over her, or she's in tawaf and there's so many men, then she just keeps it down. But for example, she's not passing by many men and then she's got it uncovered, and then somebody passes and she's someone who covers the head, who believes it's awrah, then she covers. Then when they go away, then she's up. But if she's going to be regularly around non-mahram males in the airport or in the hotels or something, then she just keeps it down. And here some of the scholars say that this cloth that she puts down, this covering, it shouldn't touch her face. So that's why if you notice some ladies, they wear like a cap. They wear like a cap and then they lower the cloth over the cap so that the cloth, the material doesn't touch the face. So that's the opinion of some of the scholars, the Hanafi scholars, the Shafi'i scholars. Others, so therefore, if it touches the face, there'll be a penalty. And the other Hanbali scholars and Maliki scholars say there's no problem. So a lady doesn't need to wear that. She just covers it and touches the face, it's not a problem. It's not a problem. And then if she covered it and she's aware that she's covering her face and that she shouldn't be covering the face, she's aware that she's just with her brothers or with her sons and husband, for example. There's nobody there and she's kept her face covered, then she has to pay the penalty. She has one of the three options. But if she forgot to remove it or something, then it falls under forgetfulness and that's okay. The moment she remembers, then she just lifts it up. The moment she remembers, she lifts it up. So the same thing applies. Somebody is in ihram, for example, they get the chance to touch the Kaaba and they're touching the perfume. They don't realize. And then when they realize, they stop, no penalty. It's like they put perfume unintentionally. So that's how it would work. That's how it would go. The last thing to mention is that when it comes to the lady's ihram, she can wear jewelry in ihram. That's not a problem. It doesn't go against it. And the male, he can wear a ring and he can wear also a watch. It doesn't go against ihram. And he can wear sunglasses, for example. It goes, she or he can wear sunglasses. It doesn't go against ihram. Even if she dyed her hands with henna, for example, they say that's permissible. That's all permissible. Okay, we ask Allah Azza wa Jal to teach us that which benefit us and benefit us with that which He teaches us. Wa sallallahu wa sallam wa baraka ala nabina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa ashabihi ajma'in. Alhamdulillah Rabbil alamin.